Great, all set. Thank you, Paul, very much.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and call to order this August 16th regular Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I see we have a public forum at the beginning, but it doesn't look like we have much of a public, so would it be all right with you if we move to the financial reports?
Yep, that'd be great. Thank you.
Excellent. So we are in receipt of the financial reports. Don't need any motions. So we move to the minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, having received copies of the minutes as approved, hereby approves the same. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Questions? Okay. All right, so we'll go right into board action. And the first board action is personnel consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent, hereby approves the attached personnel agenda. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? You want to say aye again?
No, I squeaked it in.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. All right, so we move to the CSE CPSE. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, having received copies of recommendations of the meetings as listed on the attached memo, hereby approves the same.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's still summer. We'll get there.
Not sure who's counted.
We'll get there.
I
Nancy's
know
always
who's
counting.
She knows. I know who's counting. I know who's counting. Counted.
All right, so we are at the business consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, hereby approves the attached business agenda. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any
Just jump on there real
yeah,
quick.
Please,
Probably one of the larger things in here that we had been speaking about through the spring and through the summer was the transfer to our reserve fund. And so, as the board knows, last May, the community provided an opportunity for the district to start saving funds for capital projects. In particular, we have identified the athletic improvements at the high school as the first piece that we're looking at there. That includes, basically refreshing baseball, refreshing softball, and actually locating a tennis courts at the high school. So this number will get us to about $4.5 million in those funds available for us to get. And our intent is, as we mentioned before, hopefully in February, we can add a little bit more into here that'll get us to the dollar amount we need to go ahead and ask the community back this May to get those funds out so we can start a year from the summer to start that work. So we're on very, very good footing and heading into the right direction on that.
A year from next summer, you said, or
From July of
today.
23.
Yeah.
Yep, so we're actually working with the architects now. Our intent is to get the plan up to state as soon as we kind of walk through that design process. And then we'll go ahead. We can't actually get a stamped approval from the state till we show them we have the funds. So that'll happen after May, but they'll have it. They'll have said, look, you're good to go. Hopefully before we get the community approval, then once that happens, we can start putting out for bid, start getting stuff jumping. So that's the intent. We'll be there. So we'll hopefully grab our representative families and coaches in September, give them a sense of what the architects have at that point in time. Hopefully have about a 30% build on the project, and then be able to bring folks together, have that conversation. I know Nick is our board liaison for that group, so hopefully you can kind of report back out once we meet back in September. So we're in a very good place. Again, with everything going on pricing and things like that, the sooner we do this, the better we are to help ourselves. And so we're glad that we're talking getting this going in 12 months and not 24 or 36. So.
Great.
And just to be clear, Dr. Blanche, you're saying that the voters have to approve how you're about to spend the funds once you collect it, correct?
Yes, it's in New York, lovely, and so can we set up the savings? Yes. Can we take it out? Yes. And so that's been something the district has been able to do before for things like the safety and security budget and things like that. So it allows us to avoid bonding this work. In particular, for the athletic fields, we've been able to do some of that, like the last field replacement as well, too.
Great.
So.
I just wanted the...
Understood, absolutely. No, I agree. Many times I skip over those parts, and it's just because I'm kind of used to it, so thank you for bringing that up. Perfect.
And just for clarity, there's
Yep.
going to be a planning committee, right? That's going to be discussed with, I used planning committee, I shouldn't have, because we're going to have a planning committee this evening. But there's going to be a committee of folks that you just said that would represent the community's interest as you go forth in planning this, correct?
We've had numerous meetings in the spring to do that. We'll re-engage them now in September to go ahead and let them understand what the desired results would be and what budget we have to, and how far can we get into that. So
Excellent.
we'll be working on that.
Thank you. Thank you for your service on that. Okay, so we are at the stipulation of settlement, yeah?
We have
No.
Sorry. All in favor of accepting the business consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Okay, so stipulation of settlement, be it resolved, the superintendent of schools is hereby authorized and empowered to execute the stipulation of settlement as presented here. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Had we, I'm sorry, just jumping in.
Please.
We've discussed this before?
Yeah, so these are pieces that have been shared with across with the board, and then at any time we have student matter stipulations, we'll have conversations with those, and we'll have some of those later tonight.
Right. Okay.
So the question was because executive session is typically before the public meeting, yeah?
Right.
Thank you for asking.
Yep.
Thank you for the clarity. Okay, so, sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstained? Opposed? Okay, so we move to the district-wide safety plan, whereas the Commissioner's Regulation 15517, whereas presented here, be it further resolved that the Chief Emergency Officer is directed to file the district-wide safety plan with the Commissioner of Education within 30 days of adoption, as well as provide a copy to the appropriate local law enforcement agencies, state police. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All right,
Not here.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, so building level emergency response, whereas the Commissioner's Regulation 15517 requires building level emergency, whereas all building level emergency plans have been reviewed by the building level emergency, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education adopts the Primrose Elementary School, Somers Intermediate School, Somers Middle School, and Somers High School emergency response plans for the 2022-23 school year as presented. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay. Now we get to the Planning Committee. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby establishes a new Planning Committee, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby designates 2 to 3 board members to the Planning Committee to carry out the functions as set forth in the attached committee charter. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. Discussion?
So this is a follow-up from our work session they had before. And again, I think it's our first piece to just proving some clarity in our process of development, including timelines and those matters. Board of Education roles, responsibilities, superintendent/staff roles and responsibilities, and then be able to come together kind of on a annual process to identify what our first steps are. With this being the kind of first clear step in this work, Nancy will get us together here shortly to make sure we're there. Our initially identified initial date for the collective board to go through is in December, so we're working with Jamie, making sure we've got that date. Remember, Jamie was here at our retreat, but this team will be able to go ahead and between here and there, what are the actions that we're doing between here and there as a board, as well as a district, and walk those through.
So this is building from, this is building from our retreat, right, where we discussed the board's role in setting goals that then was enacted by the district. And so this was our approach as the board to be inclusive of the wider community in sort of representing what those goals might be. I don't know if anybody wants to share because we were all at that meeting.
On this committee, should we specify sort of call it longevity or tenure of the committee? In a sense that we want to make sure this planning committee has can transcend sort of between year after year when board members are changing. Somehow it maintains continuity. That's probably important.
Like how to guarantee that there's sort of institutional
yeah,
knowledge that lives there for a while?
That's right. Like in the membership, we make sure that we always have that continuity.
Smart. I mean, I think we can think about that as, first of all, we need 2 or 3 folks, right, Nancy, to say right now who would like to serve on this committee before we approve that. So if we want to discuss now, maybe we talk about who will be here for certain for a couple more years.
I think that there's
I
some
don't
folks who
wanna skip
spoke at the
past what-
meeting, correct? And I think there's some folks who identified at the workshop that were already interested in that.
Sure. Who,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, do we have Nick?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Me?
I think
Ife?
Ife and Nick, and then if there's a third, anybody can join a third, just as long as we stay within 3. So it doesn't
I
have
mean-
to be, but it could be something like that, so.
Yeah, okay, so Ife and Nick for certain.
Great.
Yeah.
No pressure?
I'm happy to pitch in.
That'd be great.
And so with this piece, again, I would say a clarifying part for us is to come out of the December, so we have our current existing kind of 3 overarching goals, and it's really going back and visiting and adjusting, clarifying that language, that group. So that's where, again, as the
Can
board set
make
those
proposal
goals.
of a
So we should,
organizational
Yep.
type of statement.
so we should come out of that December meeting with those, and more than likely, I think as we spoke at the retreat too, perhaps some fiscal responsibility things that kind of would fall into, those are all specifically the educational piece, and what other elements might we need to add in there?
And community
Operational-
engagement, we talked about community
Yeah, so,
engagement a
so,
bunch.
yeah, so there'll be some opportunity to, what do you want to say, enhance the current goal structure and update the current academic goals with these other elements that we want to clarify. So hopefully, again, that's a target coming out of December with our timeline, then that works well for the schools as they're getting ready, in January 23 to start working with their building-based work, so then they've got kind of this lead at the board level, and then we can kind of work that through the system. So
Excellent.
should be good with timing that wise, but.
So the community representatives, the
So-
board representatives, the school representatives together will come together and share with us what they believe their vision would be. The board then sets the goals, which are then enacted by the district, right?
Correct.
Excellent.
Right.
And I think
And
to
this-
what Ife had brought up, I mean, when every year we're talking about the committees that we have, and when we come to a new year, I think that's our starting point, is that we have the committees that we just had the prior year, and we roll them forward. So I'm not concerned that it's going to just disappear, and I think the default is that it rolls forward if needed, unless
There
it's
there are many
determined
ways
that
of,
this is just a
many
one-year.
ways of doing that. I mean, it's like Congress sometimes does that. If you set up a committee and say your chairman has a more than 2-year, 3-year, or 4-year duration, so that cut, board member serves 3 years, and not every board is synchronized. You can 1 year, 2 year. So we can always make sure that, the chairmanship covers longer in a way than the board members rotates in and so on.
So Ife, is your proposition, sorry, go ahead.
No, good.
You're reflecting what he was getting at. I mean, I'm comfortable with
Yeah.
going from year to year, and
It's because
if
this
we
is
feel a
long-
need
yeah.
of continuity and the leaders.
Because the
still gonna-
planning is a long-term issue, that's,
So-
make sure,
So-
you don't drop the ball.
So I do agree with Chad, right? So again, this is the planning committee. The board is definitely, part of the
Serve in there,
process.
but we don't dominate, anybody, has to be
Yeah,
dominating.
and to Chad's point, I think year over year, we can be considerate and aware of that and say, okay, great, Ife, you were on it, right, for consistency, why don't you stay on it, the following year, whatever it might
Yeah,
be.
it could be
but we can
even
make
a
that distinction.
citizenship. I mean, citizen serves as a chairman, could be even 4 or 5 years in a row without, changing, whereas the board member comes and goes.
Yeah,
So again, I'm going to check my understanding too, Nick, that the charge of the group is to establish process, to establish connectivity, to establish, then that work happens, and then it kind of comes back to the board collectively.
Correct.
So I frankly, I would not see this as needing a chairperson and, things like that. It's more of just an operational committee to make sure it's all working through in a nice seamless manner. So I think that the language sits that well, and then our target is make sure when we come back in December that we've got all the information as best we can to have that, and we've got the dates and the timelines, all that stuff laid out.
yeah. So I mostly agree with you on that there. The one thing is I do think, look, I think all committees should have a chairperson represented on the board, just for ownership within the board itself.
It's
Right, as far as-
accountability in. its own
Accountability on the
sense.
board and just kind of just having that ownership and going back to, whether presenting to the rest of the board or coming back and reporting on that.
Yeah, I think for a reporting metric, it makes sense for us to have one board member, to Eve's point, that has 2 years at least of service on the board where they can be there continuously. So if somebody wanted to be, I would be in favor of having a chair, as Nick said, on every committee. just again, for continuity for everyone involved, that there should
It's
be
fine.
institutional.
I'm thinking I'm used to your practice. I think you were speaking to, Chad, that the practice has been to have a couple of years' service while our folks come on and off. So anybody who wants to be a chairperson, we can identify that with the two of you gentlemen now. And then we can say if that's a 2-year stint, then that chair, we at least knows there for 2 years and we move it on.
I don't think we need to do, I'm open to it, whatever. It doesn't need to be a 2-year stint or anything like that. But I just, as practice and overall stuff, I do think, kind of like I'm representing the board on
Yes.
the sports piece of it, right? So I'm coming back and representing, and part of my job and my role here on that committee and talking to them is, not only Ray just telling you, but hey, yep, I sat in those meetings there. I see what's going on. We're talking to the rest of the community, but I'm actually, again, it's more than just your voice coming up and saying, hey, look, I'm actually able to sit there and say that here's the conversations we had, here's all the different input, and we definitely have a breadth of input on it, and this is a good cohesive plan that we talked to a whole bunch of people on. In this case, same way, it should be, one representative, and I think on all committees, I'm on the audit committee, right? And I should, whether it's me, Chad, or whoever it is, but should be able to come up and sit there and say, as the chair for the board, Chris is going to run the meeting on that there, in that one there, but it's like, okay, great, as the board, we saw it, we went through the details, we defined they showed us the process that they have in place, I'm comfortable with it, but we're just representing the board's overall voice and taking others' input, maybe Lindsay has some say, but collecting and soliciting the rest of the board's view outside of the public session.
What I'll do is I think I'll follow Jamie's lead from this summer. I want to be crystal clear that you are, Amanda, on the Social Emotional Wellness Advisory Committee. That's a district committee. You are board liaison. So that's where I would see that being different. Board liaison still would ask you to please share out the meetings from the board table, but it's not a board committee. This is a board committee, like the audit committee. Those are board committees. The other ones are district committees with board liaisons, much like the athletic is a liaison role, yours is a liaison role. So sometimes there's a liaison role, and then there's a chairperson role, because that's a board committee. Then, and Frank, I think it's helpful to make sure I'm clear with the collective understanding, the administrative council, the community is clear, like there's different types of committees. So I think
Right,
your
maybe
point
I
was
gave-
perfect.
I gave the wrong example.
Oh, no, it
with
was
the-
perfect.
the other
No,
way
you were
around.
right on target. I missed
Audit
it.
was-
Yeah.
You were right. I didn't clarify the separation between the both. Yes, this is a board committee, so yes, that should have that chairperson feel versus Social Emotional Advisory Committee, that's a staff
That's a
committee.
liaison piece.
That's a liaison piece. And again, I think we talked last time, like when we have board comments at the end, that's the perfect time to say, look, I'm going to report out on my liaison position here, or the chairperson. So
And
that's
the
perfect.
chairperson is accountable for reporting on that on
Yes.
a regular basis,
Yep.
part of the.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did not clarify the difference between the two, so very helpful. Perfect.
I think that clarity is great.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. So really, the difference we're talking about is representation versus reporting, right? So in the one instance, it's representation from the board, and on the other, the board is actually reporting back and sort of taking ownership and accountability of the actions that are under their purview. Is that sort of
I
right?
would hope also that the liaison would still share back what they experienced.
Correct,
Yes.
yes.
Different accountability level, but yes,
Yep,
yes.
Yep, yeah.
The only
Perfect.
other thing I wanted
Thank
to
you.
say was,
Yeah.
the first bullet point here, I thought the wording was a little, it didn't read smoothly to me. Lead and manage the work of the improvement planning process. Isn't it more just lead and manage the work
There's
to
a.
improve the planning process?
There's an updated version of it.
Oh, there's an updated version.
Yeah.
Where is he reading?
Oh,
Yeah, which
printed
is,
this out too soon.
Too quick.
you gotta be nimble, Chad.
I do, okay.
And we can always adjust,
Yes.
some of those language
Yeah, no, we
pieces,
can
but I
always-
think it does speak to spirit more from the July retreat, so.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
feels
is-
very
okay.
aligned to what
But this
we've
was taken more
discussed
from the
before.
July.
Thank
Okay.
you.
That's,
Documentation that we did there.
So it sounds like we've got two folks to move forward, and Nancy will go ahead and reach out. My hope is mid-September-ish, we can go ahead and get the initial group together that we've got identified, and then kind of start working through the purpose.
If I got that right, Amanda, you also wanted to be invited, or?
Oh, that's right, I apologize, man.
No, it's
I don't want
okay.
to
I don't lose
volunteer you for, we've worked long enough, I know you're like, yeah, I'll do it. So,
I'm happy to put the time in.
great. And again, I don't see it being a massive commitment, so I appreciate, another set of ears and eyes there, so.
You'll just be responsible for writing all of the goals for the district. Kidding, okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Excellent. All right, so we are at the parent rep for the Committee on Special Education. Be it resolved that the following parent be appointed as parent representative of the Committees on Special Education for the 22-23 school year. Martha Andrew. Am I saying that right? All right, thank you, Martha. All in favor? I'm sorry, may I have a motion?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, who was the second? Oh, thank you.
You missed it.
She's messing with you now, Nick.
That's pretty
Opposed,
quick.
abstained? All right, everyone's in favor, excellent. Side letter of the SCSD SSRP, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Somers Central School District hereby approves and ratifies the side letter dated August 10th between the district and the Somers School-related professionals full-time, and hereby authorizes the superintendent of schools to take all actions consistent with the terms thereof. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? All right, one more. We have a memo of agreement between the SCSD and the SSRP. Be it resolved that the Board of Ed, upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby approves a memorandum of agreement between the SCSD and the Somers School-related professionals dated August 15th regarding the title positions of Assistant Cook and Cook. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Excellent. It looks like we've made it to the public comment just in time for no public to comment. So, board comments?
So this would be this time, I would say in the future, this is where we would report out, right?
Yep,
Not that you
perfect.
have to be quiet, I'm just saying, this is the.
I have nothing to report.
Are you modeling for us right now? I like it. Thank you. Anyone
I
have
love when a
anything
plan
to
comes
report?
together. It's good.
No? I'm looking
I hope
forward
you're all enjoying your summer.
what's left of it.
And I'll,
Don't say it that way.
yeah.
A lot of opportunity.
And just as we'll close, that just, we do have another meeting in 2 weeks. We definitely see movement in the summertime for, some of our support staff position and things. So I know that we have a couple that we just got as late as today. So we'll just ask for a quick quorum again, or quick meeting on that day, so.
Do you
2
want to
weeks
have an
from today at
executive
4 o'clock.
session ahead of time or
So
after?
it depends upon the board schedule, so work on the board schedule. I know sometimes, we try to do it 4, so it's an earlier piece instead of doing it earlier. We can do it afterwards stuff, so we can clarify that after, but, yep.
Does that count as superintendent comments?
That was it?
Amazing.
Yeah, yep.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education goes into executive session to discuss student matters with legal counsel. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay.
Great.
Thanks, folks.